In this part, I'm going to explain to you how God is related to his creation. In a way, this is a sort of extension of the earlier video that I did on the existence of God, part 1, where I talked about the nature of God. This is a little bit more about the nature of God, but in relation to creation. In that video, one of the things I said about God is that God needs nothing. So the first point here is that if God needs nothing, then why did he create us? Well, he created us out of love, created us to give rather than to receive. Point 2, he created us out of nothing. So what that means is there's just no other matter in the universe that always existed that God took and created us out of. God literally created us out of nothing at all. I'm going to give you this passage from the book of Maccabees, Second Maccabees, and this is basically why we believe that God created us out of nothing. So it goes. Oh, and by the way, in the context of this, this woman was trying to convince her children to stay true to God, even unto death. And her sons all were eventually martyred. But she was talking to her child and giving her support, and she was saying, "I beg you, child, to look at the heavens and the earth, and see all that is in them. Then you will know that God did not make them out of existing things. In the same way, humankind came into existence." So that's where we know that God created us out of nothing. Also, we know that God holds creation in existence, and I'm going to show you two passages from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. The first one is from paragraph 27. "For if man exists, it is because God has created him through love, and through love continues to hold him in existence." And also from paragraph 301, "With creation, God does not abandon his creatures to themselves. He not only gives them being and existence, but also, and at every moment, upholds and sustains them in being, enables them to act, and brings them to their final end." So God holds us in existence continuously. Another point, God continues to create us. In other words, God did not create the universe at the Big Bang and then just stop there. God created then and always continues to create. Here's another passage from the Catechism, paragraph 302. "Creation has its own goodness and proper perfection, but it did not spring forth complete from the hands of the Creator. The universe was created in a state of journeying toward an ultimate perfection yet to be attained, to which God has destined it. We call divine providence the dispositions by which God guides his creation towards this perfection." Okay, so God created the universe, he created us, but now he continues to recreate us in particular, and to be better people. So this is all a continuation and act of God's creation. Another point is that God is distinct from his creation. And we know this because we are told not to worship the things in creation, but to only worship God, right? If everything that existed was simply part of God himself and emanated part of God himself, then we would worship the things as well because they would be God. But we don't. We don't worship things because they're not the same as God. Another point is that God allows secondary causes. In other words, it's basically like saying we have free will. So here's something from the Catechism, paragraph 306. "God is the sovereign master of his plan, but to carry it out, he also makes use of his creatures' cooperation. This use is not a sign of weakness, but rather a token of Almighty God's greatness and goodness. For God grants His creatures not only their existence, but also the dignity of acting on their own, and being causes and principles for each other, and thus of cooperating in the accomplishment of His plan. All right, so that's God in relation to His creation. In part 2, I'm going to go over with you the first story of creation in the book of Genesis.